Jake Stuart with the National Sports Media Association. Today, I'm joined by 2021 Maryland Sportscaster of the Year, Bruce Cunningham. Bruce, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much. I retired March 31st, so I got nothing but time. So go ahead.
Well, first off, congratulations on your retirement. Congratulations on your award. This is your first award from the National Sports Media Association. What does it mean for you to be honored and recognized?
Well, it's actually my fourth. In the previous
excuse me.
Previous organization, I won twice in Alabama, and then we won a national award sponsored by Powerade back in. But anyway, it's quite an honor. I think most of my colleagues in the business knew I was getting ready to retire, so I think that I got a sympathy vote, but I'm not giving it back. I'm very proud. I'm friends with everybody here, and for them to think that much of me means an awful lot.
Well, Bruce, you worked for Fox 45, in Baltimore. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what your coverage was, what you covered with sports, and what brought you into the industry?
Yeah, well, boy, that's a wide range of questions there. First of all, at Fox 45, I was part of the original crew. We started up in 1991. There had just been an ABC, NBC, CBS affiliate news up to that point, and so we started it up. And it was fun. We had no idea what we were up against. And nobody was watching for the first year. So we just kind of did it for each other, but it made us better. And I felt a strong bond to the place, because I was there the day they turned on the lights. In terms of wanting to get in the business, I thought I was going to be a disc jockey. And playing those same records over and over again in that small room, it was just getting to me. So I went to college. I went to VCU. And I get on campus and I hear that the basketball team needs a PA announcer. So fine, yeah, I'll take the gig. So about 9 games in, I feel a tap on my shoulder at halftime one time. It's Randy Blair, who was the sports anchor at the local ABC affiliate. And he said, "We have a weekend job open. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, let me think about it." Yes. And, went down an audition and got the job. So I was 3 months shy of my 19th birthday. So it was just some unbelievable amount of luck that came my way. But I have young guys like you say, "How do you get in the business?" And I always tell them, I got to be truthful. I don't know. I don't know how to get in the business because it was just kind of a fluke thing. But I was able to do it for 45 years and in various markets. And I don't think that you guys, the next generations coming up, I don't think you're going to have that opportunity. The business is changing so much. Local news is kind of veering away from sports incrementally, but it's happening, and the jobs just aren't going to be there in the future. So sports journalism will continue in some form, but I don't think it's going to stay in the form that it is. I grew up with nightly news and reading the paper every morning, going out in the yard and getting the paper. Well, those two things, are just about to go by the boards.
Sure are. How much did the work you did as a PA announcer help you for your work as a news anchor?
Not very much. It's two different animals. A PA announcer, you're kind of trying to hype and entertain and all of that, whereas being a sports anchor, you're just trying to deliver the news the best way possible. So the two weren't alike at all, and it was really funny because I would do both on the same day. I'd have a Ravens game, and then we'd have to do the news that night. So it was quite a stepping of boundaries for me, but it was always a lot of fun. When you can say something and 71,000 people jump to their feet, you feel kind of like Mussolini on the balcony. It's an indescribable feeling. On the other hand, if you make a mistake, then there's nowhere to hide, and I made plenty of those, that's for sure.
Now, who were some of those sportscasters that you looked up to growing up, Bruce? I know you got into the industry, you said about 19 years old, right about where I am right now. What made you want to be a sportscaster, and who were some of those sportscasters you looked up to?
Well, I just wanted to be a broadcaster. As I told you before, I didn't really have, sights on a sports career, or even though I was an athlete, I played everything in high school. And if you would have come to me and said, "Well, you can be this," I would have said, "Well, wow, that sounds great." And to passively get in it the way I did, it was awesome. I can understand why people want to do this. It's the best job there is. In 31 years, I've covered 2 Super Bowls and 2 Final Fours and a national championship game and American League Championship Series twice. So I've gotten to do and see an awful lot of things that I might not otherwise have been able to do. Where I grew up in southeastern Virginia, the big industry there is the Newport News shipyard. And a lot of my friends ended up in the Newport News shipyard, and I probably would be there too had it not been for that tremendous streak of luck that hit me back in 1977. That's a long time ago.
Wow. Well, you spoke earlier about, this changing sports landscape, just changing news landscape. I wanted to ask you, how much did your work change? I know you were going into retirement, but how much did your work change as a result of, COVID-19, if at all?
Well, it changed completely. You went from covering events and disseminating information about something that might have happened that day or that night. Yeah, we had to work a lot harder to find ways to fill our time. We did every night, and most of the things we did had to do with player movements or things like that. But even so, it was a very challenging time, and it's not like one day we got there and it was over. In increments, it got easier and easier, and they started playing games again, and that got easier. But I'll tell you, I've had a lot of challenges in my career, but that let's say 12 to 16 months, the first of the pandemic, that was the biggest challenge I ever had to face. No question about it.
Well, just a couple minutes ago, you rattled off, just a multitude of event coverage you've had, everything from
Yeah.
Super Bowls. And I wanted to ask you, if you had to not pick one, but let's just say, to tell our listeners about one that stands out to you,
Okay.
a moment or somebody you were able to cover, what would you say?
Well, it's easy. That's a real easy one. I've also done a lot of play-by-play in my career. Baltimore had a Canadian Football League team for 2 years, and I was the play-by-play voice. And then when the Ravens got here, I got the radio gig there too. To broadcast the first game of the Baltimore Ravens is a thrill beyond measure. You got to the stadium. It's a beautiful day. The Raiders are there. Baltimore's back in the NFL after 13 years, and everybody's so happy. And it clicked to me in the broadcast booth. You know what? I'm not passive here. I get to participate in this thing. It's almost as good as playing in the game. Nothing will ever come close to that in terms of a thrill. Just to be able to help bring that game and right that massive wrong that was created when the Colts left here, it was tremendous. And every time I think about it, I tingle. I'm not going to lie. That of all the great things I got to do, that's right at the top of the mountain, to be sure.
I think the other moment that kind of comes to mind for me, and at least my generation, when we think Baltimore Ravens, we think, the 49ers game in the Super Bowl when the lights went out.
Yeah.
What can you say about that? What about that coverage?
Actually, I've got a unique story on that, if you don't mind me telling you.
Absolutely, yeah.
The night before the game, my photographer and I are crossing Poydras Street right outside the Superdome. They set up scaffolding for all the local stations to do their live shots. So, we're going over for the 10 o'clock news. It's about 9:45, and there's a pothole and I don't see it. So I've got the tripod in one hand and my bag in the other, nothing to break my fall. So I hit that tripod or that pothole and I go down and break my arm. I didn't realize it was broken, but I didn't sleep all night. First thing in the morning, I go to the Ravens team hotel. First guy I see is the Ravens team doctor. He said, "What's the matter?" So I told him. He calls the trainer. They get ice on it. He gets on the phone. He tells my photographer where to take me and who to ask for. I'm out of the emergency room by noon. Everything's looking good. Kickoff's not till 6:20 or whatever. Well, they gave me Percocet. Okay. And it said on the label, take one every 2 hours. Okay. So I get out of there at noon. I take one at 2. I take one at 4. I take one at 6. By kickoff, I got 3 Percocets in me. Okay. So as the game unfolds, the lights go out. And I thought, oh my God, what now? So I leaned into the guy next to me who I didn't even know. And I said, "Did the lights just go out?" And he said, "Yeah, they did." And I was like, phew. I thought it was the Percocet. I'm not even kidding you. And I tell my friends and colleagues all the time, we can sit around and tell Super Bowl stories until the end of time. I'm always going to win that competition with that story.
Wow, that's quite the story. I couldn't have drawn
Actually,
that one
I did
up.
a bunch of interviews. I did a bunch of interviews on the field after the game, and they got them out and showed me about a year later, and I had no memory. It was all muscle memory
Wow.
that enabled me to do those interviews. So it's that was quite an untoppable story, to be sure.
Wow, what a story. Well, the last question I wanted to ask you, Bruce, and thank you so much again for being here is,
Sure.
what advice would you offer to, guys just getting into the guys and gals just getting into the industry as, sportscasters or just broadcasters, TV broadcasters, albeit, what advice would you offer?
The best advice I can give you is keep your knees bent and keep your head on a swivel, because all of this is changing. As I said a few minutes ago, we don't know what form this is going to take as we move into the future. It's probably going to be digitally based. But stay open to all possibilities, and beyond everything else, learn how to write. Make sure you're taking journalism classes. Make sure you get the basics before you enter the business, because you're going to use those all the time. The other thing, and this is probably not the best forum to say this, but given the future of local news and sports, I would recommend that you stay open to the news side as well, simply because there's probably 10 jobs for every sports job. It is a lot more opportunity. Get your foot in the door, get the first job, and then you can start to chase, the things you want to chase. Your first job offer may not be sports. Well, that's fine. Take it, because you'll still learn all the skills that you need to learn, to function in TV news. I can't emphasize that enough. Don't pigeonhole yourself, and don't let anybody else pigeonhole you.
Awesome. Words of advice from our 2021 Maryland Sportscaster of the Year, Bruce Cunningham. Bruce, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Anytime.